Hey guys, does it feel like you're looking for lost car keys every time you try to find an API key to set up an AI automated service? Well, I get that all the time from my clients, and today I'm going to show you quickly how to locate your API keys for OpenAI, Anthropic's Claude, Google Gemini, and Perplexity Sonar Deep Research so that you don't waste time trying to find them on your own and you can get building ASAP. So let's dive in. All right, let's go ahead and get started with locating our API keys. This is going to be a quick video on how to find your API keys for OpenAI, Anthropic's Claude, Google Gemini, as well as Perplexity Deep Research. But we're going to go ahead and start off with OpenAI just because that's the most popular model that most people are using these days. And it's pretty easy. All of these different AI models require you to create an account with some form of payment information. They won't give you an API key until you provide that payment information because as you begin to use your API, it's going to charge tokens and credits. Usually the costs are pretty low. However, they won't let you start without giving some sort of payment information. So that being said, once you get to openai.com/API, the first thing you're going to have to do when you click on Start Building is create an account, verify some information with OpenAI, and provide a form of payment, usually credit card. After you've done that, when you come back to openai.com/API, you can just hit login. And after you log in, it will take you to your API screen. You're going to start out on the dashboard, and it looks more like this. When you start out on your dashboard, you'll start out at your logs screen. But what we're looking for over here is our API button at the bottom left of the menu. Click on API keys. And this is where you're going to generate an API key. You'll notice there's already one in here. I've already generated one for this demo account in the past. Today, we're going to generate a new one. So very simple, hit create new secret key. You can provide a name for your key. I'm just going to call this test key for today's purposes. And you can select a project. Some accounts, you'll have multiple projects just because you have multiple business units. You may have multiple clients, right? If you're a consultant, where each one of them will be isolated to their own project for billing purposes and for keeping track of activity and who's using which APIs and which services. Anyways, once you select your project, you can just hit create secret key and it's going to automatically generate your API key. Conveniently, they put the copy button in here because the next thing you're going to want to do is copy this key and put it in somewhere where you're going to be leveraging this automated API, probably in a service like Zapier, Make, or N8N, where you've built some sort of custom augmented, AI augmented workflow that's using generative AI to perform some function. So copy that API key and then move on over to whichever service you need to drop that into, paste it in, and you're good to go. You should be able to start using your OpenAI API and automations or whatever service requires your API right at that point. The other thing that I'm going to recommend and I'm going to do right now is never share your API key with anybody that you don't trust on your team. I would never put it into Slack. I would never save it in a document anywhere. And as a best practice, you want to make sure that you're rotating or swapping out your API key every 2 weeks or so. Just as a rule of thumb and best practice, set a calendar invite on your calendar to remind you, make it recurring, and then just make sure that you're coming in here, creating a new key, and then putting that key into whichever service it is that you're using so that you can keep using that service. But that's just a best practice for security. And again, don't ever share your API key because once someone has access to it, they will then be able to use your account and you'll start receiving billing. And they may be using your account for purposes that you may not want them to be using it for. So anyway, that's OpenAI, pretty simple. The next one we're going to take a look at is Perplexity. And the reason we're going to take a look at Perplexity next is because Perplexity is very, very valuable as of today, June 19th, 2025. Perplexity is the only frontier model that allows for deep research via their API. Now, you might have heard of deep research in OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. And yes, all those models do also provide deep research in the console. So you can absolutely go into any one of those models and perform a deep research report in their console. However, if you want to leverage deep research to augment some automated workflow with deep research information or a research report so that you generate richer content, you're going to have to use Perplexity's API, and in particular, the Perplexity Sonar Deep Research API. So a couple of quirky things about Perplexity is that when you go to their site, it would appear as if you would need to have subscribed to Perplexity Pro on a monthly basis in order to access their API. I can tell you that is not actually the case. You can actually just go to their docs.perplexity.ai/guide/getting started. And this will tell you how to create an account with Perplexity so that you do not have to subscribe to Perplexity Pro on a monthly basis. You can simply set up this account, enter your credit card information, and pay a la carte for token consumption with the Perplexity API. This gives you pretty detailed instructions on how to set up that account and what to do, as well as how you will create your API key. So this is a very helpful document to use today. Once you've created your account, you'll go log in. You can hit the playground and log in. Once you log in, you will actually start out on the My Account page. Looks something like this. You've probably set things up correctly if you see a page like this when you get done setting up your account. And just like OpenAI, they keep their API key button down here in the bottom left. So you'll click on API keys and then very simply the Create API Key button. And now you have an API key for Perplexity. Same thing as OpenAI. You'll copy this key. You'll paste it into whichever service you want to use. I use this quite a bit with Make. Make has a nice built-in Perplexity integration that you can select as is in your scenarios, and very easily run those deep research reports and then spit that information into another LLM to use and leverage when developing generative content for your users or your team. Again, I'm not going to leave this open. I'm going to delete it. For today's purposes, you don't want to have an API key out there that people can leverage. So best practices, I'm just going to delete that now. So that's Perplexity. It's fairly easy to create an API key here as well. Moving right along, the next one we're going to jump into is Google Gemini. Google Gemini is actually a little bit unique in terms of all of the different APIs that exist today, and I'll jump into why in just a second. You can reach this site at aistudio.google.com. You will be able to create an account just with your Gmail login, and then you'll have access to the Google AI Studio. You actually don't have to enter any payment information up to this point. One pro tip about the Google Gemini AI Studio is you can do all of your prompt engineering for free here. And what I mean by for free is you don't have to pay for tokens when you're doing prompt engineering with Google's AI Studio. So if you were doing prompt engineering in the OpenAI API, or if you were doing prompt engineering in Claude's API interface, the developer console, you're actually consuming tokens and paying for those tokens as you go back and forth working on your prompts and iteratively, giving feedback and RLHFing things so that you get those outputs that you want. Instead, I would recommend using the Gemini AI Studio. Here, you can do all of that for free, and it's not going to charge you anything. So there's also some other cool, like out of the box tools that Gemini gives you that you can play around with for free, like these native speech generation APIs, this live audio to audio dialogue stuff where you can create custom versions of those and an API key that points just to your custom version of those things. You can also do, native image generation that's completely custom with Gemini 2.0 Flash, and an API key to go to your custom image generation prompting. Those are cool things, and you can mess around with those for free here, and then generate an API key that drops people straight into those services via whichever trigger or endpoint that you're providing those services through. All right, so back to generating our API key. It's pretty simple. Up here, you're going to just click on Get API Key. And then again, the big blue button for Create API Key. You're going to automatically have a Google Cloud project created for you when you create your account. So you can select that automatically created Google Cloud project just to get started, and then hit Create API Key in existing project. You're now generated an API key for Gemini. Again, you can copy that very conveniently and go straight over to whichever service, paste it in there, make N8N, Zapier, and start using Gemini right away. I will caution you, however, that Gemini automatically opts you into sharing your information, and in order to train their models, and in order to disable that, you'll need to go to billing, and now you will need to enter your billing information in Google Cloud Platform. So you'll need to create a billing account there. You'll give them your credit card, and then you will then be able to opt out of sharing information with Gemini for training purposes. You'll also have access to their more advanced and experimental models that are not exposed in their API unless you set up a billing account. So be sure to do that. And if you don't want them training on your data, or if you need access to some of their more specialized and updated models. All right, so I'm going to delete that key again, just best practices. Don't leave your API keys out there so that people can find them. All right, and then finally, we're going to go over to Claude. Claude is located at anthropic.com/API. Once you get here, you can click on Start Building. It will prompt you to, again, create an account, enter your payment information. In order to even generate an API key, they're going to ask you for payment information. So once you do so, you will be dropped here inside of the developer console. Theirs is pretty straightforward. You only have a couple of options that you can mess around with. You can create prompts. You can do some prompt engineering generatively by just talking to Claude and telling it what it is you want the prompt to be able to do. So it's a nice tool for generating prompts. Again, you're paying for that though. So you can do the same thing with the Gemini AI Studio and not pay for it. So I would recommend using that power or that pro tip and going over to their studio to do your prompt engineering. And then finally, you can generate your API key. So let's go ahead and create key, and we'll call this test add. All right, now you have a new API key for Claude. Just hit copy and go over to whichever service you want to go over to and paste that in. You can delete your keys very quickly, and you can maintain control over your account and cycle out those API keys every couple days, right? I have a couple in here for different demos that I've done. But really every 2 weeks you want to be cycling these out and recycling them. So that is how to get your API key out of all of the frontier models. If you liked this content, be sure to like and subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about the video, and be sure to follow along for more helpful tips like this in the future. And as always, have a great day.